the Furlough Podcast, brought to you by All American Ford in Aniana, Alabama. Stop by and see John Makovica and his team today.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Furlough Podcast. It's a beautiful morning. I think we got a windy morning. We got Michael Barnes called in. You're in Ohio, correct?
Cincinnati, Ohio, yes.
Oh man, I have family in Ohio.
Excellent.
It's good. I just told her I could never come up there when it's cold, because last time I came up there when it's super cold, it was super cold. You guys don't have a whole lot of blocking wind up there.
No. But it's 65 degrees today, so.
Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, we got you on. You're working to put things together for, I guess, be social economic type situations. I know that you had listened to some of our shows, and I talked about, sex trafficking, different things of that nature. I'm not sure if we've done much on homelessness, but I know homelessness around the country is a very big problem. And I think that, I think it's pushed by the wayside a lot of time. And I know that you're trying to come up with things, for the basically the communities to put a plan together. What kind of things you got going on?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on, Chris. It's great to be here. As you mentioned, I've got interest in, right now I'm working on homelessness. To back up a little bit, actually, my first interest was the human trafficking. And I also, for about the last 5 years, I've been an entrepreneur, I've been a business coach, started my own company, helping other companies start, working in accelerators. So done a lot with business and getting businesses going. And as I was going through this, the concept or the issue of homelessness came up. And so, I'd been thinking of a lot of things, but, it's all boiled down to an event. Okay, starting with an event that I call Cincinnati Hacking Homelessness. And so this event will be a weekend where we get 100 people in a room, come up with innovative solutions related to homelessness, and then implement those solutions. And so it really is finding a way to bring the entire community together, gather the wisdom of the community for, in our case, homelessness, and come up with solutions. Because I very firmly believe that two things. One, the community really knows the solutions that will work there. And two, for-profit enterprise can be a big part of the solution related to social issues. And so whether it's homelessness, I've got more visions, and in the end, I want it to be city hacking issue. So it's a strategy to go to any locality and come up with solutions to whatever they think their problem is. The solutions will involve for-profit companies, nonprofits, governments, social ventures. Everything is on the table.
I'm glad that you mentioned for-profit, because what I think is, and this sounds terrible for most people, but I think when you don't take, I think when there's not some sort of profit involved for certain people, there's no motivation. And they may have a good heart, they may want to do a good thing, but they're not going to divest their time in something, because ultimately they think about their family's well-being. And I'm a firm believer that help everybody, but you do have to put your families first. And when you can put a little bit of, and I'm not saying, make a living off the destitute's back. I'm just saying that if you put things together where some people feel like, there's a balance of feeding their families and helping others, I think that you'll get a lot more people involved.
So I fully agree. And I will go further and, have even more people dislike me. But even these people in nonprofits, if you're not volunteering, then you're looking for a personal profit, right? It's your job.
Right.
You may be doing what you believe in, but you want to put food on the table and a roof over your head. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And so, you may not know, but I was in academia. I worked at Cincinnati Children's Hospital for 12 years. number 2 pediatric research institution in the United States. We had people who, they're making a reasonable living, but they always said, we're not here for the money. We're not here to make a profit. And I always thought, well, okay, then volunteer.
Right. Right.
And so everybody likes to draw this line, my salary or what I'm getting out of this is okay, but what the next person gets is not okay. And so, I like to point out to them, if you live in the United States, you won the lottery.
Absolutely. Right? I've been to multiple countries around this world. I think 7 or 8 minimum, and I have seen firsthand, which another thing that just irritates me to death is when people go, oh, we're not doing. You'd be shocked at what we're doing as a country. Could we do more? Yes, we can do more. Anybody can do more. I mean, we do things around the world as a country that people don't even realize. We give. Can we do more? Yes. But to your take is, if you think that, I can just, I don't need any kind of money, I don't need any kind of thing, well, you'll be homeless too. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Right. Exactly. And that's really my point. And again, I mean, that's sort of an off direct topic. I also have a company. We help nonprofits connect with service providers.
Oh, nice.
So I talk with nonprofits a lot. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things, again, from back when I was at Cincinnati Children's to now, everybody seems to have this need to feel superior. And, I guess it makes sense, right? I work for a nonprofit. I don't make as much as other people. I'm doing cool stuff. But those people over there in the for-profit, they're sold out or whatever. Well, a lot of drugs do work. And, I'm not going to get into the argument of whether pharma companies are the best or not. But you know what? Penicillin is really helpful.
No shit.
Smallpox vaccine was a really good thing.
Right. There's give and take in everything, isn't there?
Absolutely. And so there's good people and organizations and nonprofits. There's good people and organizations in for-profit. There's good people and organizations in government. And so perhaps we could all come together, perhaps in a weekend, 100 people in a room.
Hey, it makes sense.
And synergize across everybody. If your skill is building for-profit businesses, if your skill is making money, awesome. If it can be applied to, in our case, help people get safe, stable housing, awesome, right? I don't care how much money you make. Right. If you're making this happen, more power to you. There was one example of a company that this guy was starting, one of these accelerators that I mentor at. It's called Flywheel here in Cincinnati. We mentor social ventures, so for-profit businesses with social purpose. And he was a dentist. He saw that people living on the streets, poor people without insurance, they'd go to the ER with dental problems. ER docs are not dentists. No. They don't really know what to do. So, here's some antibiotics and some painkillers. Have fun, right? Right. That's all you do. So this guy had the idea, how about we embed a dental pod into ERs? And then, I don't know his full business model, but he had a whole business model where within 3 or 4 years, it would become a profit center. So as well as helping the people with no insurance, it would help other people. They would subsidize the uninsured people. People on the streets would get the dental care that they need. The things would actually be corrected, and the hospital would make money. I'm just like, this seems like a great solution to me.
Well, I'm going to tell you, if anybody's ever had a bad tooth, that is an emergency. And if you can't get it fixed, you are one of the crazies on the street. I can tell you right now, if I had a bad tooth, and I don't want to, when they say, well, certain homeless people are crazy. Well, hell, if you got pain in your face, yeah, you're going to be a little edgy, right? I mean, I'm not saying that they're not all, there's not some of them out there that aren't a little nutty, but I'm just saying when people are in discomfort and things of that nature, they can be perceived in ways that aren't favorable.
Right. And I think that goes far beyond that. And I'm not a psychologist, sociologist, whatever, but I see all the time from people who I know are well off and well to do. And you've probably heard the term hangry.
Oh
Right?
yeah, I'm angry all the time. I'm telling
Yeah.
you.
I'm angry because I'm hungry. I'm like,
Yeah,
these people are living in hunger.
yeah,
I mean, constant.
right.
And when you get 3 or 4 hours sleep a night for one night, most of us the next day are, oh my God, life sucks. I can't believe it. Imagine living on the street or in a shelter or on someone's couch and not being able to sleep
Hmm.
and being in physical danger all the time. So even when you fall asleep, it's not good sleep.
Right. It's like being in a combat zone.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of these people have PTSD.
Yeah. Which,
I mean, even ignoring the fact that half of them, according to some stats, are vets, right?
right, right. Well, it's curious though, because is not to get down a rabbit hole, because is the PTSD thing. I think I get shamed a little bit because I feel like that's a phrase that's used so much that the people that really have it are pushed to the wayside, and so that's one of those things. I'll get down this rabbit hole is when we talk about homelessness, and for example, is there are people that have psychological issues that are homeless, and that is such a hard thing in my mind to combat. Is how do you help somebody that either doesn't realize they need help or doesn't understand, you know what I'm saying? They say, because a lot of people say, well, they're homeless because of that's their choice, they chose to be homeless, but it could be a psychological issues why they chose to be homeless. There's some people that are just pieces of crap. You know what I'm saying? And it's just and there are people, they're pieces of crap that aren't homeless. You know what I'm saying? So some people choose to be homeless, but some people choose to be homeless and they don't understand it's a psychological thing. They don't understand that maybe there's some things, underlying issues. But PTSD makes me upset because it's almost like the service animal thing. When people feel like they figured out they could take their damn dog on
Yeah.
flight. So, well, it's my service animal. It's my service whatever. It's my service damn donkey, whatever. I'm trying to be funny here. But,
Well, there was a case of a mini horse
yeah.
as a service animal on a plane. Yeah.
I mean, come on, people. Those people have psychological issues. They just haven't made it to homelessness yet.
Yeah.
It's like, I think so. So my angst on some of you have to label something in order to create a plan to fix it, right? But the problem, opportunist is what are the people that infuriate me and drive me insane, because they're like, oh well, if I say I got PTSD, I'll either get some benefits or I'll get just some sort of social thing to where people owe and ah for me, and I just want to reach and I just want to shake them, so I'm like, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with you. It's like, well, and even some vets, I'm a vet, and I can say this, I guess, with certain things. There are certain vets that go, I have PTSD. I'm like, from what? You didn't even serve in country. You didn't even your MOS wasn't, you didn't even see combat, but they got, and I just my my friends that look at me a little side eye, they're like, you're a little nuts, Chris, because I go off the rails on, I just
Yeah.
want accountability. And I think accountability for, when you evaluate somebody, and maybe the answer for what you're doing when you get those 100 people in a room is maybe if you got one person, right, that shows up, that has the background, the knowledge, the intelligence, the experience to help somebody like me, for example, that does not have a deep background, to help truly identify somebody that needs help
Mhm.
and weed out the ones, because the problem that you overrun, in my opinion, is when you come into any kind of shelter, ER, whatever, if you don't have proper training, how do you discern
Yeah.
who is really in need?
And I think that that's a very important point. And people have so many different opinions, and people have so many different passions, right?
Mhm.
And so what we are looking for in this weekend is 15 1% solutions. We used to, we've gone through a variety of iterations of how to say that, but there will be people who only have interest in helping people with diagnosed severe mental illness.
Mhm.
There will be people who only have interest in helping veterans. There will be people who only have interest in this, that, or the other thing. There will be people who want to apply one technique to any person. Again, right? So the dentist guy,
Right.
he doesn't care. Whoever is in the ER and doesn't have insurance, he wants to help them. But he knows dentistry. So that's what his passion is. And so, having enough solutions allows, the goal is to allow anybody to find their passion and find a place that they can apply their personal skills. Right. So
But isn't that perfect?
that I think so.
Because, and I say that in all honesty, my day job is, and I do engineering work during the day. And the first thing I learned when I truly started figuring out, when I first got into this realm of making a living, is I wanted to jump in and be the guy. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to do this, I want to do that, and I totally figured out that it's okay not to be the guy with all the answers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You are a better asset, and I hope people really listen to this, no matter what your field is, whether it's doing what you're doing, whether it's, whatever your job, whatever your asset is, coming in and knowing, okay, what am I good at? And you can always get better at other things, but what am I good at? What am I bringing to the table? And be open-minded for Mike to come in to me and say, look, Chris, my experience, and this is proven true, blah 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 blah, this is what we need to do for this. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And not to rebuff you. So you got to get those people in. And okay, the dentist guy, for example, I'm not going to tell the dentist guy that he's dumb, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell us like, well, shit, man, if that's the way, you're the guy, if you know how to do a dental procedure efficiently, effectively, and make a profit and help somebody, that's a good model. I'm
Right.
going to tell you how to house
How to
people.
build the pod, maybe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm gonna tell you how to what's the best way to, let's get the plumbing. You know what? I mean, I don't want the guy that's good at pulling wire and electrical work trying to tell the dentist guy the best way to.
Right. And
So,
vice versa.
exactly. So, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong is, and you said it earlier, is they want to be the all powering, level person who has all the answers. I think when you run the best group is having a leader that can put the right people in the right places, and that leader doesn't necessarily know the down and dirty details, of each person's part, but he or she knows enough that is the right person for that part.
Right. And I don't remember which tech guy it was who's quoted as saying, we hire smart people and let them tell us what to do. Right.
And Zach, I know a guy that owns a huge construction company, and he couldn't tell you. He is business smart. He can
Right.
make deals. He can win the bids, but he couldn't. I mean, and he knows a lot of the crafts, but as far as the engineering, he goes, I don't. He goes, I pay people to do that. I don't know, why am I going to do that for it? He goes, I don't have time. And I also, another guy told me once, he's a very successful guy. He goes, if you're doing all the work, you ain't getting nothing done.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so that's why we're looking to get a broad cross section, right? I want people living on this, living on the streets. So the first four groups: people living on the edge,
Mm-hmm.
people living on the streets, people living on the edge, because even once they get housing again, they'll often fall back off if they don't get support.
Mm-hmm.
And then their families. Those are the first four groups. Then there's, of course, nonprofits and governments, but I also want businesses, I want entrepreneurs, I want people, rich people who can invest in these things. I want the foundations who can fund grants, the angel investors, the accelerators and incubators who can help train people to make these things successful. And, I know a little bit about all of it, but the heck with that, right? I want to bring people together, and I actually am not looking to be part of these solutions necessarily, right? I
But
want them
yeah, you want to
to,
get the solution. Your solution, if I may, is getting the right people together.
yeah,
That's your solution, right? That's what you're
right,
bringing to the table. What you're doing right now, because my sister lives in Cincinnati, and
okay,
for most of her adult life, she has dealt with abused children.
okay,
And I told her there's a special place in heaven for you, because some of the stories I've heard, there's no way
yeah,
I'd be in prison. I'd lose my mind. That's not me. I mean, I think probably after the first horrific case, when I went and killed the parents, I think, or whoever, I think, I just wouldn't make it. But for
right.
her, and I'll definitely get her your information, because
Oh,
she's in your area. She's in Loveland.
okay,
And so, I mean, that might be something that she would be passionate about. She might be one of your 100.
yeah, and
She could
so,
bring years of that experience to what she sees. And it's because people forget homelessness is not just adults.
oh yeah, there are a lot of kids who are going through homelessness, and I also I believe I wrote something, posted on LinkedIn a couple of years ago, a blog, and it was called "We Need a Holistic Solution." So that was getting back to when I was talking about anti-human trafficking, and this was non-scientific. It was just what I came up with as I was driving to this church. I got in there and I just wrote it out. Okay, but what I saw was um, you have people coming off of drugs, people coming out of prison, people aging out of foster care, and human trafficking, and all of those feed each other. Okay, so 50% of kids who age out of foster care, according to one report in California, um, within 2 years are dead on the street or in prison. And 85% of the people in prison went through the foster care system.
Mm.
So, I mean, I want to have people in the foster care system. I want to have people in the reintegration, right? So people coming out of prison, how do they get jobs? Because otherwise, they might be handed $13 and said, good luck.
Hmm.
What do you want them to do? They're going to live on the street. They're going to commit crimes. This is why recidivism is one reason.
Sell themselves.
Yeah. And so I want all of these different groups. And so, yeah, child abuse is a big part of it.
Yeah, you need to on my site, and I put this on the show because anybody that's interested in this, Barbara Fowler is on my social media. She has been really spearheading a big campaign in the state. She's doing huge things in the state, and I think she's doing them anywhere and everywhere around the country that people are willing to do. Um, she is I think she'd be a good person for you to reach out to. That might be just something, or anybody, not just yourself, anybody listening to this that wants to also reach out to somebody that's doing the sex trafficking,
Yeah.
anti-sex trafficking, I guess is the right answer. Is
I said that one time when I first was reaching out to somebody. I'm like, yeah, I'm really interested in sex trafficking. Can you tell me what to do? And I'm like, okay, not actually what I meant.
That's so me. That's so me. I would have said that. Then they look at you crazy. And you're like, what do you mean? What's wrong? But yes, she's a great one to do. I think, it makes sense what you're doing, because, and I think getting people together is definitely the right step. And,
Mhm.
and we're doing this very powerfully with technology, and it reaches far and wide and all that good stuff. But also sometimes just that person to person contact really makes a difference too. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah, and so that's really interesting that you bring that up. So I've run into some cool people as I've been doing this, and one that I talked to recently, um, the whole technology piece. His name is David Levin. Um, he's also on social media. He wrote a book called The Mosaic, and he is starting this. I don't even know how to describe it exactly, but this thing. So he wants an online platform. He wants 1 billion people to join at $1 a month. Okay, so nearly anybody can afford $1 a month, and you find some millionaires who will sponsor 1 million people, that kind of stuff. And his using AI in some manner that they're still developing, the swarm decides on a topic of the month. What problem do we want to talk about? And again, using AI in some manner that's not fully in place yet, it's being developed.
mm-hmm.
The swarm decides on what the solution is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they then have $1 billion to put into that solution that month.
So okay, so the money is, and that's where I was going to get to. The money's not going to him to become a billionaire,
Right.
but the money is truly set aside to address that issue.
Yeah. And
Now
so,
that sounds good.
yeah, and talk about a use of technology. Talk about bringing everybody together and giving everybody a seat at the table.
So it's almost like taxes the way they're supposed to be used. I said it.
Yes, and yeah, we could go pretty far that direction.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
and not social media, but how can this is actually the non-tax solution. First off, this is why I'm interested in for-profits for the homelessness, but I also have theoretical interest in how do we solve hunger and thirst around the world. All right, so Notre Dame burned. Most people know that, right? They got $1 billion in a day pledged to rebuild it. And right about that time, I saw an estimate it would cost $30 to $100 billion a year to fix thirst and hunger around the world. I'm like, if you can get it for a church, you should be able to get it for this purpose. And
It goes
so,
now, not to break you off a mental thing,
before,
but it goes going back to what you had said. It's about what earlier. It's about what people are passionate about.
yes,
So it's about education. We need to educate people what to be. If you're educated about a church, about a cathedral that's been around, I'm not going to shame it. That's wonderful that people gave it to it. But what you're supposed to do is go back into your religion. Why are you passionate about that? Because of
yep,
your religion, right? But what is deep down all the religion's supposed to say is taking care of your fellow man,
yep,
right? So we need to retrain the brain. It's not about just your denomination. It's not about just your local church or whatever, blah, 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 which I do believe people should do more locally than they do internationally, because some people get the feel good feeling, oh, I'm going to go off on a mission to Belize or, whatever. I just use Belize. It's probably a bad thing. I just know a lot of people go Belize, but
sure,
when there's stuff to do around their own neighborhoods,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So, but not to get too far off, I think you're right. I think that why can't we give $1?
yeah.
$1.
And so my solution for hunger and thirst is the Christian church should do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm a Christian, and
Yeah.
so I feel like I can say it, and I know enough about the book and the teachings of Christ. We're supposed to help people. We're supposed to feed the hungry. When did we not feed you? Yada yada. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's an argument that we are not called to do it. So I'm like, okay, there are 2 billion Christians in the world.
Okay.
If each one gave $30 a year, that's 60 billion a year.
That's a
Okay,
lot.
so there are a lot of people who can't give anything. Let's go with that. Okay. In the US, Germany, and France, there are 300 million Christians.
Okay.
If each of those would give an additional $200 a year, right? This is like $15 a month. That would be $60 billion a year, which should solve, according to whatever this estimate is, the hunger and thirst crises around the world.
Sure.
And
What's
so,
$15 a month?
right.
There's
And
people.
so,
That's 3 trips to the fast food joint, right?
yeah. Well, I don't know where you eat for $5, but okay, we'll go with
I'm a
that.
cheap eater. I was fair to say I am a cheap eater. I mean,
Right.
but you're even more correct. I mean, what does it cost to go to a fast food place? $8, $9,
8,
10?
12, 15. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. So you're not so one meal. So for
right.
one meal a month, if you will.
Right. And so this is what my passion has been for a long time, is I think differently. I think of solutions. And so I wrote some blog posts about that whole hunger and thirst thing. And the last one was, it's only $50 billion, right? Because most people hear that and they're like, oh my God, 50 billion, that's ridiculous. That's too much. We can never do anything.
Just a
Well,
couple
here's the
hundred,
simple
yeah.
way. And okay, even the 300 million can't do it. Let's just say, we get some rich people who cover some others and whatever. Let's say we get 30 million, 1/10 of those. Okay. Now we're at $6 billion. And the reality is, if you look at the way money flows in the world, if we got the Christian church, however that is, to commit to $6 billion a year to solve hunger and thirst, a lot more money would pour in. A lot more research would happen. A lot more innovation would happen. And so even if we didn't fund the whole thing ourselves, it would be synergistic and a lot more would happen.
You hit on something. I'm glad you hit it. I do engineering work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my company thrives off of everybody spending money. Okay. Because nobody's going to update their existing equipment or add new equipment if there is not a profit or a need for them to do so. So what we've got to train people is, whoa, we're giving them money away. I need to do it. Okay. If we built a new plant, a water treatment facility, anywhere in the world, I mean, you can drop it on, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Well, what happens is water treatment plant, you got to think what goes involved with the water treatment plant. You got concrete, you got steel rebar, you got pipe, you got controls, electronics,
Mm-hmm.
DCS systems. So you got general labor. So what happens is if I give $15 to an organization that's not corrupt, and I'll get onto that part in a minute, and they truly go out and build something. Well,
Yeah.
now what happens is, for me, somebody's requested for me to do some engineering work. They've requested for my counterpart to do some sort of contracting work, whether it's moving earth, whether it's, so it really does. We have to do things. If we all sat around, sat on our hands, so to speak,
Yeah.
then things truly don't get done. And I think that's when economically we fail.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we should do things frivolously. I don't want us to build a damn monument in the sky that we could all stand around and stare at that doesn't do anything for you. But if we're going
Right.
to spend money, let's do things. Let's do things for, prime example. As pipelines, we'll do pipelines underground all over this country to move oil from this place to that place. They don't have to be on a truck. Wonderful. Okay, no problem. Cuts down emissions, whatever. Why can't we move water?
Right.
I've always asked that question. It's like, we can move oil, but we can't move water. So you
Right.
have certain parts of the country that is just flooding.
Yeah.
When Houston was flooding, last year, they were like, we don't know what to do with all this water we got. We got water. Well, California's in a drought. They're dying, right? If there's a pipeline that could go both directions, so to speak, you
Yeah.
can pump you got a pump house on each side and some area pump house. Well, if this guy's flooding, he's like, hey man, I got all the water you could take.
Right.
You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Fill
and
all
then
your reservoirs this month,
fill it
and
up, man, and everybody's, and
yeah,
vice versa. And
yeah,
you do that in rough countries. You do that in parts of Africa, parts of Asia, parts of wherever. I mean, you drop it.
right,
That is, to me, sometimes I feel I'm either ignorant or very intelligent, because
yeah,
I look at this and I'm like, this doesn't seem like a big issue.
right.
But the problem is there's no profit in it.
Well, so there, you can find ways to make a profit. You can find ways to make money. And there's so many ideas out there. Again, as I've been looking into this stuff. So there's a guy, he gave a great TED talk, and he was talking about how 2/3 of the earth is undergoing desertification. All right. It's becoming desert. And in in his own manner, he came up with the idea, go back to original. So if you know, when the settlers came to North America, they found buffalo herds that covered multiple states, right? Massive herds. And so this guy has this idea and has proven it to his satisfaction that if you get huge herds of animals and run them around the desert, basically, the desert will come back to life.
Interesting.
So you go back because they drop their manure, they tear up the land. Instead of having really dense dead grass layer, they just dig it all into the earth, and so stuff can grow.
Yeah, they basically aerate the ground.
Yeah, and so maybe that's an answer to the whole thing. There's a guy in New Zealand or Australia who has done work in these desert areas, and he looked at the geology and found that underground there are these huge caverns that used to have water and now they're empty. And so I don't remember all the details, but basically they dammed up the stream for a year or something, filled those caverns again, and now the entire valley is green, and you can see the edges of it where it goes back to desert. When they had a drought one year, they had no problems because the underground caverns continued to produce the water. There's these places in the Middle East, Israel, and various other places where they've brought the desert back to life by technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I look at it again, right? So, you get 60 billion, you may not solve everything this year. But if there's $60 billion flowing,
Mm-hmm.
people are going to come up with these ideas. They're going to invest in the research. For-profit companies are going to invest their own capital into the research, and we'll come up with more of these ideas. And so, maybe it's 60 billion now, but as we develop, right, if you could desertify the land, or if you could, turn these valleys all over the place into lush growing places, then you don't have to help them anymore.
Right. Well, it's like, it's like deforestation and stuff like that, which is bad. And they're doing a lot of, they're having problems in Brazil or whatever. But they attack paper companies in the US. Well, the
Yeah,
thing about it is, I know the pulp and paper industry, and what people don't realize, it's a for-profit business. There's so much time, energy put back into replanting
right.
that we actually, if you believe them and you believe all the stuff, there's more trees now than there were in the United States than there were X number of years ago,
Right.
because they need trees.
Right,
If I'm
exactly.
making paper, I'm not just blatantly cutting trees down and saying, well, when they run out, they run out.
Yeah,
No, that's my cash crop.
yeah,
So these guys have got things down to a science.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely. And it's like crop rotation, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know the details, but let's say it takes 10 years to get a good paper tree. They're going to have 1 acre at 1 year, 1 acre at 2 years, 1 acre at 3 years, and they'll
You've
just
hit it
do
exactly.
it.
You really have. You've had. That's what they do. They. It's a cyclical thing, and doing what you're talking about. I mean, there's so much that you can do. I think your tagline. I'm gonna push this out here for you.
All right.
tagline is when you have everybody in there and you pull up your screen's monitor, it says, "Don't be afraid of profit."
I like
Don't
that.
yeah, don't be scared of profit, whatever you want to do. But main thing is don't be afraid of profit. It's not a dirty word. It's a
Right.
motivating word.
Yeah.
You know,
And
we have so many doctors in this world now, especially the United States. They're not because I'm just a wonderful person.
right.
You know, you think the guy that figured out how to do robotic heart surgery from across the country, you're in Chicago and he's in LA. They didn't come up with that because of his heartfelt desire.
Right.
He did it for profit. And it's
Yeah.
okay because now your Uncle Ned is alive because you
Yes.
know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so I think we forget that. I think we lose that mindset. And I think when you're talking to people and you get your 150 people in a room, it's like people, we all have good hearts. We all want to do the right thing, but do not be scared of profit. Not,
Yeah.
let's motivate these people to do the right thing.
Yeah. And I come back to, actually, we're all getting paid no matter what. When you donate to a cause, you are getting endorphins released. You're feeling good, or maybe it's a publicity stunt and you're getting publicity out of it. It doesn't matter what, you're getting paid,
Mm-hmm.
right? Unless, well, not even if you carry $1,000 in cash and slide it under the door when they're closed, you still know, and so you feel good. And so
Absolutely.
everybody gets paid in something.
Mm-hmm.
Getting paid in little pieces of paper is not inherently bad.
Right. I think we're on the
So,
same page, man.
absolutely,
Uh,
absolutely.
well,
Yeah.
when are you planning on doing this event?
So we're finalizing the date, and my expectation is the second weekend in June.
Hey, that'd be good because I might actually. Where is it going to be again?
Cincinnati.
You might actually see my face there because I told my
Awesome.
sister I need to come up and see her, but I won't come in the wintertime.
Well, as I said, come up today. It's 65
Yeah,
degrees.
there's as soon as I show up, it's going to be wind and cold and blah blah blah. But
Right.
you never know. I'd be.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm never afraid to speak. If you're looking for
Right.
speakers to talk about that, I have no problem speaking in front of large crowds.
Yeah.
And it
I'm,
sounds like a great thing.
thanks. I'm trying to get Daniel Levin, the guy with the swarm, to come by and talk. He's launching basically a national trip. He wants to go stop in 50 or 100 cities.
Cool.
And he wants to just talk to people. It's kind of funny. So, I want to get 100 people in the room for a weekend, talk, and come up with ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel called up his whatever city councilor or whatever and said, hey, I'd love to go out on the street and just talk to people and film them and have a conversation. His question always is this world what you want to leave to your kids? If yes, what do you like about it? If no, what would you change? Pretty simple. It's non-controversial, that kind of stuff. And he was told, well, you can't do that. We won't give you a permit to go out and film that.
Why do you need a permit to film on the street, though?
Because you're out on the street, and actually, if you are filming, if you're like a production company,
Yeah.
you need a permit.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Huh.
So he could just say that he's a reporter, but he actually didn't expect a problem. I don't think, right? Wherever he is, he's like, yeah, we're this really progressive city. I figured they'd be okay with me just talking to people, and they said no.
Well, I think that some people that are progressive per se are afraid. They're still afraid of backlash or whatnot. They're afraid of
Yeah.
controversy.
Well, the way I have said it in the past, so I worked for a genetic testing company at one point, get people on the right meds for ADHD, PTSD, depression. Okay. If we accept the idea that our test helped, and we had data showing that it makes people feel better quality of life, they get back to normal faster, insurance pays less money, so it's a really good thing. If we make the assumption that helps, New York State has an approval process, so they were 2 years out of date on our testing just because they're so slow. And the way that I put that was they were protecting their citizens to death, because we know that PTSD and depression lead to death, or at the very least, very much lower quality of life.
Absolutely.
And the same with when I was at Children's doing research, the human subject protection people were so into protecting people, it made the research harder, slower, more costly. And so we did less research, meaning that we found fewer cures, we understood less about disease. And so people died because they were being protected to death. So, there's a balance. I disagree with where some people draw the line. I understand other people have different places. So it's just to bring up the fact, just realize there's a cost to protection. And sometimes when you're trying to protect people, you end up killing them.
Right. Well, I think it goes back to, the unearthing of some very unethical testings in the turn of the century. And
There's been a lot.
so they, by sometimes doing the right thing is not doing the right thing, but they're trying to do the right thing. If that makes, what I'm saying, it's a confuse. I can see where it's frustrating and confusing on both sides.
Yeah.
And I think transparency and communication is better than anything. Instead of being slow about it, they should be, well, this is why. We need to know that you're not doing something shady. And then, of course, unfortunately, the companies that are trying to do the testings, like, well, I don't want to give out what we're doing because we are for profit and we are trying to come up with the right thing. We don't want to just lay all our cards out on the table that somebody faster is willing to go overseas and just juice people with a bunch of stuff, and where there's no, you know what I'm saying? And so I see both sides.
I see both sides as well. My response is there should be an equal right to participate in research. So right now, we almost only focus on the right to be protected, the right not to participate.
Yeah.
But if we also focused on a right to participate, that would change the discussion.
Yeah, because there's things that people are willing to try if I've got whatever, and the government says, no, we won't let you. It's like, dude, I'm dying anyway.
HIV and cancer have had those discussions a lot, and the government shifted some. They've loosened it and made it easier, but it took a decade for them to agree. I know that I'm going to be dead in 2 weeks. Just go ahead and give it to me, whether it may or may not help me, but I'm willing to risk my 2 weeks to help, the people down the hall who I know have 2 years.
Exactly. I mean, if I know a deadline is bam, I'm like,
right.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy. But I think you're bringing up good conversation. I think you're bringing up very bipartisan conversation on no matter what your feelings are, whether you have a religious background or an agnostic background or atheist background, it doesn't matter. I think if you're left or right or in between, upside down, or whatever you like to call yourself, I think that I think having a forum for an honest conversation is the absolute best.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring up all that, because I want what I call the bleeding heart liberals, right? The people who say, oh my God, we've got to do absolutely everything to help everybody. And I want the small government people who say, look, we don't need government to solve our problems. We can solve our own problems. I want both of those groups in the room. And what I would dream of is the two sides look at each other and say, you know what? I don't necessarily exactly agree with how you go about it, but you know what we agree on? Everyone should have a safe place to sleep at night. How can we make that happen? It may be that they'll then split off into their own separate solution pathways. Or they might say, you know what? If we split off, we're going to be arguing. Half of our energy will go into arguing with each other. So we only have half of our energy to accomplishing our goal. Why don't we find those places that we do agree, and then we can pour 95% of our energies into that. We still have 5% so we can fight with each other, because that's what we like to do. but now we've got 95% of our energy going in, and there's really no one trying to stop it.
Everything you just said, you need to re-listen to and use that as your opening monologue.
Okay.
Because you're absolutely right. Everything you said was absolutely correct. And I think that you will grab everybody in the room. When you present it in that nature, I think that is the way to present it.
Excellent. I will definitely do that. I'll just like cut out this audio and
There
I'll lip sync it.
you go. Or just practice enough where it's second nature, right?
Exactly.
That's what I like.
Watermelon, watermelon, watermelon.
Watermelon. That's exactly right. But everything you just said is absolutely right. We're gonna fight.
Yeah.
You know, if you stick me and you in a room long enough, there's something we're not going to
Right.
agree on. I mean,
Exactly.
to say otherwise is foolish. Okay. But if we're trying to dig ourselves out of that room, like, look, let's put our
Right.
energy together. You may want to use a pickaxe and I may want to use a shovel. It doesn't matter. We can argue over that, but the goal is to get out of the room.
Right. And better yet, you know what? You use your pickaxe, you dig the stuff out. I'll use my shovel and I'll move the stuff out of the way. And we're now doing it our own ways, but doing it together and doing a heck of a lot better rather than, as you were saying, standing there yelling and screaming. And, you know, you try to hit me with your pickaxe. I try to hit you with my shovel.
Exactly. Hell, man, we might bridge gaps just by putting this show out there. We just gotta let everybody listen to it.
I hope so, because that's also a really big thing for me. You know, I've found this group called Better Angels, and they have as their mission depolarizing America, and so they want to get, they call them blues and reds, in the same room and discuss topics. So the way it has worked so far, I've only been to 2. The blues will get in a circle and talk to each other about something. The reds watch, they can't say anything, they can't respond, whatever. And then they switch. And then at the end, you sit around the table and the question is, so what did we see that was the same?
Nice.
Right?
Not what's different, but what's the same.
Right. So it's not, you know, it goes back to whoever's quote that is, you know, don't try to change the current reality, create a new reality that makes the old one obsolete.
I like it.
So why don't we figure out what we agree on and let's go towards that.
Absolutely, man. Damn. I like it. I like where you're going. I think you take what you're doing, morph them in together and add instead of subtract. And I think that you're going to have a successful meeting in it. And I think that it's something that, and it's like the Rotary Club of life, if you will.
There you go.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Like that.
It's the Rotary Club of life. Other than just business, it's about, you know, what are you think of all these successful groups that you know, the Freemasons, the Rotary clubs, the Elks Lodge, and what they, you know, I'm just using those kind of very over top things, not endorsing anybody, but you know, what were they founded on? They were founded on how to do things better. And
Right.
I think socially you are creating, if you do this and get these people together, you're creating a club, a true club of making things better for life.
I just sitting here listening to you say that is actually another, I call everything a 1% solution, right? But how to make it happen, I'm not sure. But people who go through this experience, I would hope would come out with a different view and not just go off and do their thing, but become, I don't know the words alumni, but you know, whatever.
Invested.
Yeah. So, well, they become a member of the club.
Yeah, a member of the club.
So the first is Cincinnati Hacking Homelessness. The second level is due in 100 cities.
Mm-hmm.
Then City Hacking Issue. And then, you know, there are a lot of things that you go to, and afterwards you become a member of their group or their organization or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and continue the track. And so people who come in, people who buy into the let's find solutions and work together, you know, let's stop fighting about the differences, who cares, let's find something that we can do together. That group of people, first it's 100, then it's 10,000, 100 cities, and then 1,000,000. Those people could change the world.
Oh, what do you think you could do with 100 people in a city?
Yeah.
I could take over a city with 100 people. You give me 100 soldiers, we're going to take over. I mean, seriously. I mean, if I can get 100 people that are invested to do what the club is wanting to do, I mean, that is a powerful thing, because for every 100 people, there's going to be 10 people that listen to them.
Right.
I can get 10 people to listen to me. If I'm
Right.
one of 100, I can get 10 people together really quick in a room and probably be very convincing of or passionate, and passion's everything, of some. And so you do that 100 times 10, holy smokes,
Right.
that's a powerful thing.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I think you're onto something.
And I appreciate you helping me think even bigger.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I know that I had a lot of things that I have to do today, and this has been a great conversation. But I
I
think
appreciate
we definitely send me the information on the event.
Yep.
I'll post it up when the details come, across all my social media events. I will talk to my sister. I'm gonna my sister listens to the show and stuff like that. She's in your area. This may be, her heart's bigger than mine. And so I think I've got a pretty decent heart, but her heart's a lot bigger than mine. And that might be something that she's interested in. And I think that maybe, if she can't for whatever reason, she may know of people in that area. And so now you're starting to build your 100. And you never know, I might end up showing up. I'll come bouncing right through the door.
I hope so. That could be a lot of fun. Love to meet
Yeah.
you in person. Yes. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Chris.
And we'll definitely need to stay in contact. And if you'll hold on, I'm going to throw out this music and end the recording. And I'll talk to you for just a second when we get offline. And, but I appreciate having you on.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for letting me tell my story.
Oh, it's a great story. I like it. All right, everybody, we're going to hit this last bit of music. And Michael, again, thank you for coming on. We're going to keep our finger on the pulse and get you back on for more.
Thanks.
All right.